All right, everyone, welcome. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is It is Tuesday, May 7th at 7 o'clock about. We're in room 206 in Town Hall. Tonight we have a public hearing and a general meeting, so we will just dive right in. So the first item on the agenda is the continuation of public hearing regarding amendment of subdivision application 467-A, PL-24-1, Jane D. Harden of 50 Coach Lamp Lane. This is a proposal to amend the Commission's previous subdivision approval to specify that a pedestrian easement and associated walking path be located within 5 feet of the 42 Coach Lamp Lane property, Assessor's Map number 45, lot number 33-23, with an extension along the rear of the applicant's property to connect an existing pedestrian path on lot 33-23, and that a wooden fence installed by the applicant, subject to the portion within the front yard, be reduced to 4 feet to comply with the Darien zoning regulations, be approved. The .34 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of Coachap Lane, approximately 700 feet east of its intersection with Gardner Street, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 45 as lot 33-22 in the R1/3 zone. This hearing was opened on April 23rd of 2024. Guys, what do we got?
Yeah, this application is also going to be continued again to May 14th at 7 p.m. in room 119 of Town Hall. So if anyone is here this evening to hear the 50 Coach Lamp application, that will be continued to May 14th in room 119 downstairs in Town Hall.
Okay. Anybody here for that can feel free to leave. Okay. Moving right along. Our second item on the agenda, landfilling and regrading application number 569, PL-24-42, Jason and Lauren Venno of 70 Norotan Ave. Proposal to construct a new stone retaining wall and to regrade the rear of the property to create a more level yard area and perform related site development activities. The .34 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the east side of Norotan Avenue, approximately 410 feet north of its intersection with Park Place, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 42 as lot 143 in the R1/3 residential zone. All right, guys, what do we have for this one?
This application was submitted in conformance with section 850 of the Darien zoning regulations, or landfilling regrading regulations. Joe Canis of Ty and Bond submitted comments, engineering comments for the record dated May 6th, which was yesterday. Those were distributed to the commission, and Joe had several outstanding comments that still need to be addressed by the applicant's representative, Joe D'Amico of D'Amico Associates. Mr. D'Amico is here this evening to present the application and answer any questions the commission may have, but it's looking like he will need some additional time to address Mr. Canis's comments.
Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
Can you please just by the
here?
Yeah, and just state your name for the record.
For the record, my name is Fred D'Amico, engineer located in Oxford, Connecticut. Basically, as you know, the project consists of trying to get a permit after the fact. Unfortunately, the clients hired or got some material from a landscaper that quite often does work without permits before until afterwards. So anyways, I think you're all familiar with that. I did receive the comments. I can't address all of them now, but I think the main one is the stormwater comments. And those I probably would be able to address them prior to the next meeting. But for the record, I wanted to at least give you the copy of the legal notice, the letter sent to everybody, the list of names and the mailings.
That's great. Okay. I think we have some of those. Yeah.
Right, you've already uploaded this, yeah.
Yes, I already, actually already
Right,
uploaded
okay,
it,
perfect.
but looking at the directions, it sounded like you needed the originals also,
Yeah,
so.
beautiful. Thanks, Fred.
Basically, the project consists of trying to get a permit for the regrading that was accomplished in the rear of the property. The grading is basically complete. The rough grading is complete. The retaining wall at the rear of the property is also basically constructed. Almost all the work is done. However, they still need to obviously do the fine grading, bring in topsoil, and there's actually 2 more retaining walls that are going to be constructed coming out from the dwelling to allow a walkout basement in the back. The other item that was added is a future garage, and they thought they're not prepared to build it yet, but they figured while they're going through this, they might as well at least get the permit for the garage also. It's a small 26 by 24 garage because to keep it under the coverage, the allowable coverage, that's all we can fit in there. Also, it will require to remove the existing shed. The shed's actually was temporarily put there, and it's actually too close to the setbacks anyways. So the shed will be removed, the stairs will be removed, and all that would be left in the back is the deck. Then the proposal is to put in the garage with a new driveway, gravel driveway, out to the road. Other than that, all the other items are, I'll have to address I could call Ty and Bond directly and try to contact them to address all those comments. But if you have any other questions, I know I did talk to a couple of people that called me, that some neighbors that were concerned, and they should be here tonight, because they mentioned that they are getting more runoff than they did prior to the construction. So, and I believe it might be, I think it's on the easterly side, right behind the retaining wall.
Yeah.
But so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, or, like I said, the public I know has some comments.
Okay. Well, before we send this out to the commission, I know there's someone here. Would anyone from the public like to speak to this? Ma'am, please come up, state your name.
My name is Jeanette Brown.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to continue this anyway, so we might as well get the public comment on the record.
My name is Jeanette Brown. I live at 17 Archer Lane,
Welcome.
and my property is down gradient from this property. My major concern is water drainage, and I have some pictures to show you. I guess one of the things I'm concerned about is Mr. D'Amico did give a drawing that, find it, that shows the construction of the wall. But I have a few questions about that. I don't know if it's an as-built drawing, or if this is just what he would have recommended. It looks different from what the wall is already installed. There's a drainage pipe behind the wall on the 70 Norotan Heights Avenue side that's perforated pipe that's supposed to be daylighted, but I don't know where it's daylighted to. And if it's daylighted so that it drains water further down my property, I think that could be potentially a problem. I have another concern. If you look at the pictures of the wall relative to my fence, I think you folks have this or no? Let me pass this. I've got 2 of them. I'm concerned that that channel that's been formed between the rock wall and my fence will exacerbate drainage to my property. The soil integrity in that area is a very weak, it's a very strange soil. and you get a lot of erosion from it. And I can show you how the drainage has affected my property as well. So this is my property, and the water comes down underneath their fence and drains down through my property along the driveway and into the stream. And when it comes down with a very high velocity, it's actually started to weaken that wall, that retaining wall in the stream. The other concern I have is after a large rain, even 2 or 3 days after the rain, I'm getting drainage under my wall. And that never happened before this work was done at the, on their property. So, as I said, I have questions about the actual wall that's there relative to the drawing that, that Mr. D'Amico provided. If there's a way of our building department being able to check on whether or not that wall was built with this design in place. This design is a proper design. I'm an environmental engineer. I'm a professional engineer. And this wall is designed properly, but I don't know if that is what was actually installed. So let me see. The other thing was the property owner had a habit of piling leaves in the fall against my fence. And when I had the fence replaced 2 years ago, the fence people said that, you know, it's because of the leaves. The leaves decompose anaerobically. They produce acid, which rots the wood. And my concern now that there's that space, as you can see in those pictures, that it'll become a dumping ground for leaves and maybe grass clippings. And so that's the other concern I have on this. I'd really like some assurance that those things cannot happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we continue, I would encourage the applicant and the engineer to speak with the neighbors to sort of alleviate some of those concerns. Certainly, some of the questions we'll have to address. Oh, sorry, ma'am, would you like to, you have to come up to the microphone, sorry.
I forgot, I had one more question. Is it possible to get a copy of the tie and bond comments?
Yes, they're in the public record.
Okay.
So we can.
So I can go on to the
OpenGov website, and they're all in there. Everything is in there. And as your comments and pictures will be in the record as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, the latest comments from Mr. Canis, the peer reviewer at Time Bond, came in yesterday afternoon at about 3 o'clock. So yes, I would encourage you guys to speak to the neighbors to try and alleviate some of those concerns before our next meeting. Otherwise, I'm not going to open. I'm not going to open this up to the commission because we're going to continue this. So when do you want to continue it till? Next week?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and continue this to May 14th at 7 p.m. And are we here or downstairs?
Downstairs.
In room 119 downstairs in Town Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along.
Would you,
Excuse me, can you guys just?
we still have a whole meeting to get through, thank you.
I'm gonna be right in the hallway. Excuse me,
Sir,
you guys, excuse
you
me.
need to-
You need to,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Continuing along to our next and final item on the public hearing. This is the landfilling and regrading application, number 571, PL-24-46, Oscar and Allison Pincus of 50 Holly Lane. This is a proposal to fill and regrade in association with the construction of a new pool and patio areas, a pool house, expansion of the driveway and retaining walls, and to perform related site development activities, installation of stormwater management. The 1.01 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of Holly Lane at the southeastern corner formed by its intersection with Nerone Avenue and is shown on Assessor's Map number 9 as lot 157 in the R1 residential zone. All right, guys, what do we got?
This application was submitted in conformance with section 850 of the Darien zoning regulations, or landfilling regrading regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. He submitted comments for the record dated April 16th. The applicant's representative, Brian Carey from Land Tech, submitted a response to Mr. Canis's comments on May 1st. And Mr. Canis submitted a final memo yesterday dated May 6th endorsing the project and noting that the applicant had addressed all of his outstanding comments. Do note that the neighbor to the east of this property, we met with the neighbor earlier this week relative to some concerns about drainage on the property, and a few questions were submitted from that property owner. We did forward those questions to Mr. Carey and asked him to be prepared to address those comments this evening. Again, the applicant's representative.
These are the comments from Miss
Antonopoulos.
Antonopoulos. Sorry. Is
That's
that
okay.
you?
That's me.
Okay. Yeah. So we did get these comments in via email yesterday afternoon. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
I'm Brian Carey from Land Tech with offices. We're an environmental and engineering firm in Westport, Connecticut. I'm representing Oscar and Allie Pincus of 50 Holly Lane. And I'll just go over the proposal briefly. Basically, this property, it's a little over an acre. They just finished a renovation that was completed. As part of that renovation, they actually came back and wanted to put a pool in and expand the driveway and do some additional site work. They hired us to basically design that for them in conjunction with the pool company. We went out and did test pits on the property and determined that there is a very shallow groundwater table, and there's actually rock ledge in certain parts of the property. When we were hired, they were actually looking to also put in a sport court on the property. They're significantly under coverage for the lot. They're afforded up to 9,147 square feet of coverage based on the current zone regulations. The proposal is only asking for 6,940 square feet of coverage. After we eliminated the sport court, it was going to be too much site work, and they eliminated that. When we did the drainage design and started doing the design with the test pits, we realized in order to meet the engineering requirements for the town of Darien stormwater, that we'd actually have to lift up the grade a bit in order to have a separation distance between the bottom of the Coltech stormwater system and the modeling, which is 24 inches in certain parts of the property. That's why we're proposing the retaining wall, because the whole property has to come up. We've tried our best to minimize.
How high is it going to be coming?
The retaining wall at the highest point is right here on the property line, and it's about 2.8 feet high. So it's under the required structural requirements to pull a building permit.
At the line?
That's at the line, correct. So in order to install the drainage, we're capturing all of the drainage associated with the pool decking, the pool house, and everything that's being proposed on this. We've really tried to minimize the amount of grading that's required. There's only a couple couple minor grades once we pick it up. Back
So
of
the
the
wall
prop-
is only on the,
No, the wall, so the yellow
Yeah.
represents the wall.
got it.
The
got it.
wall's on
That's what I
both
thought.
sides.
So they're on both sides, got it.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
literally, we have to pick up the entire backyard, almost 2.5 feet in order to fit the drainage system into the site. We've minimized, again, this is going to be fairly levelly sloped down the back. And as part of that, all of the runoff from all of the proposed cabana, the pool decking is being treated in an underground chamber Coltech system. We did receive comments, again, from Time Bond. We responded to those. And then we got a memo back yesterday, basically saying that he was in agreement with all the changes that we had made to the site plan. I did get comments tonight at 5:30 that were emailed to me, that were sent to me from Fred, from the neighbor, and I can answer all of these because I know there is some concern about the issue that could be created by standing water. I do want to note, again, we're really only changing the grade here. There is the lowest part of the property, it actually extends. There's elevation 100 here and here. So I'm assuming that the water kind of ponds here at certain points during high rain events.
Oh, in our yard or theirs?
Well, it's
Sorry.
kind of on both sides.
Oh,
Excuse me, you
okay, I'll
can't-
talk after.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
thought it
You
was
gotta-
that, sorry.
You gotta direct
My
it to
first
us, and then
hearing.
we can ask him.
Okay, sorry.
So the reason we actually pulled this, we did the Coltech system on this side so as not to impact the neighbor. Not that it would necessarily, but we wanted a, belt and suspenders approach to it. There is drainage on the Roten Avenue. There's a catch basin here. So we tried to basically minimize any grading. The grade line really stops here. There's nothing being done beyond that. So there's going to be no change of any grading along this line. Basically, all the water will come through here and then settle out at these low grades in here, which is what it does right now.
So the wall on the eastern side almost acts as a channel directing it more inland of your property.
So right
as opposed
now-
To the neighbors.
Yeah, so right now, so we didn't have all these shots, but this is basically the grade line for 100 follows right here. So I would imagine that there is, during some rainstorms, there is
There'll be some
ponding
there.
that goes across both properties. I was able to look quickly at the aerial photography once I got these. It looks like, I think you guys did do some work on the house within the past 10 years.
Yeah, we built the house.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I forgot.
So
Oh.
that you can see that there was some grading down there. It's kind of in common, a little bit of drain, a little bit of ponding here. This should not impact the drainage pathways that are currently out there. And Joe kind of acknowledged that in his report.
Okay.
Just a couple, there are no wetlands on the site. We did review that. There was a question about that. In a survey that we submitted, there was a report that showed no wetlands. The NRCS soil map does show a pocket of Leicester soils up here, which would be up there. That's incorrect. So it's pretty straightforward.
So can you address, let's start with the easier one from the neighbor, comment number 4, why there was a proposal, why the drainage was proposed on the western retaining wall but not the eastern wall? Can you
Yeah, so
explain
again-
kind of why that is?
Again, obviously, the drainage sits above the groundwater table. We wanted to make sure, just, again, belt and suspenders, if this is the groundwater table, we have to have a separation distance. We wanted to make sure that if there was any issue, it would, come out over here at the lower part of the wall and not bleed out over to the other property.
Essentially, if it had been on the eastern side, it would lead to more seepage out in that lower area.
It could potentially during.
Because you're catching
during-
the runoff from the leaders.
That's
and
correct.
storing it versus just the sheet runoff.
So the drainage, I tried to show it, so anything in pink is our proposed drainage, so there's actually drains around the edge of the patio, and then that goes into Coltech. Yellow is the wall, and then green is the grading line. I also just highlighted this to show where the bedrock outcrops were.
Right.
Because we did do a test pit back here, but it was
Just right into ledge.
it was right into ledge. So the site does have some limitations.
Right. That's everywhere in town.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it actually is more beneficial to be further away than
It would
to
be
on the property
beneficial,
line there.
correct.
Okay. And then to ask the general comment number 3, did you determine, or how did you determine post-development peak flow rates?
So in according with engineered standards and practices, we did submit a stormwater management
Yep, we saw
report
that.
to the town engineer. Again, it was reviewed by Time Bond, the town's consultant. He had a couple questions based off his May, I think it was his April 16th letter.
Correct.
We did answer those comments in our response letter. And he was in agreement with some of the minor changes we made to the system.
Okay. And how many trees are you removing on the
I
property?
think the total is 4. So these 2 trees here, and then it's just this one and this one on the property line on the limits of the existing wall right here.
Okay.
We would try to save them, but by the time you grade them, bring in the fill,
Yeah.
there's no chance of that.
Okay. And then the final question, the first one, based on the retaining wall on the eastern side, which is the wall of most concern that's right on the property line, how does that direct? Can you just kind of demonstrate how that directs the runoff? We kind of talked about it. But
Yeah, so again, the existing grades here, this is basically flat. I mean, the grade here right now is at 103, this is at 106. There are some shots on the neighborhood property, 100, so the water actually from here is gonna come, it's gonna still come this way during storms, so that won't be impacted. And then there's 100 grade here, which basically comes down to here. Most of this, if we drew contour, it's gonna flow this way.
So the top half, front
Yeah,
half
so
of the patio will drain back out towards
That's
Holly, and
correct.
the bottom half will drain sort of down into
It's
that.
hard to see, but,
Yeah.
and I can go over to resolve any questions, but this will act as a bit of a conduit. It's already swaled that way
Okay.
between the 2 neighbors.
So there already is a swale there. Okay. Well, before I open it up to the commission, I'd like to invite the public. If anybody has any comments they'd like to say, please stand up, state your name, and where you live, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hey, my name is Brooke Antonopoulos, 44 Holly Lane.
Welcome.
Thank you. My first hearing, so exciting, I guess. My kids are outside, so hopefully they behave. We learned about the changes in the property through the letter that you guys sent, so thank you for that. I did reach out to the neighbor to ask, and she was the one who told me that there was going to be an increase of 3 feet on our property line with the new plan that's proposed, and so that was concerning to me, and I told her that right off the bat. I had another discussion with her today after I sent the email, because I think what we are most concerned about is that this property, even though the letter that the comment response thing, this property has tons of water issues. It says that there are no issues, but we've lived there since 2020, and there are significant water issues in our area, and particularly their property. And to us, we believe that's why they're doing all this work, which makes total sense. But what we're most concerned about is the eastern side. I do think the drain is going to help, but I don't see how having a 3-foot increase in grading up until our property line, is it going to add more water to our property? I can't I guess as a person who doesn't understand all the engineering, we can't really understand that, so we're really worried about it. We don't have any water issues, and I took some videos to try to, show that, because I don't understand how going up 3 feet without enough of a grading down to our property or some distribution of the water isn't going to impact us. And it's our driveway, and where the wall is actually where we have the most water. We don't have much, but we have our playground there, and that's where we have so much water if it rains. And the rest of the property, we don't have any issues. But it is on our line where our driveway is, and there's 2 points on our property where we have water. I don't know if that appears in the plans, but our driveway is here. And so this is our home. We have water problems there's a drain here, but the drain overflows. And then
The French drain?
it's a drain, I think it's called a French drain, sorry, I'm not as
Pit
familiar.
with rocks in it. It's
It's
not
a-
like
it's-
it's not like a
It
cover.
looks like a big sewer in our driveway, actually.
Oh,
It might be a catch
Yeah, that's a
basin
catch
from
basin
your
for
own,
your
from your own
property.
gutters and from,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
might be
That's generally what
capturing
those
water
are.
from your
From
own
our
property.
land,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you. But there's water on our driveway here, and then we don't have any water, like, at our home, but we do get water, like, if our houses are directly aligned with each other, we get water basically right
down
there.
at that low spot.
Yeah, and so that's where the ball's going up, and so we don't wanna, stop their plans for the most beautiful yard ever, because we think it's amazing, but we just are really concerned that there could be potential for a lot more water on our property if there isn't some sort of way, because what we can't understand is how the water from here is gonna make it all the way across there. I think what's gonna happen is all the water that's here, and right now you can hear water draining from the property like 24/7, with drains that they have or sump pumps that are going on 24/7. That's like, you hear it constantly, so I know there's water, even if it's not raining. And I don't understand how that's gonna flow across the yard, and it's not gonna actually just dump into our yard. I think that's just where we're
Okay.
worried about that, and we're kind of busy, so I just actually got my act together today to
Sure.
answer or submit questions, but I don't know if we need to hire somebody from our side or how this works, or what we would need to do to ensure that that area along our driveway in our house is not going to be flooded in a couple weeks from now when things start up.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Would you like to, can you explain to us
Oh, this is our paper.
how raising the eastern side by 3 feet will not, I believe the neighbor's concern is that by pitching it up, you're basically creating a slope down into their property. So how will that force the water not down the slope, but back into the property?
so basically, anything that falls within this area will still, it's not gonna run this way, it would run following the grade. So, yeah, there is a little bit of a wall, we could move this in a foot and put a French drain under there. We're really not, when we designed it, we're really not changing the watershed and the way the water actually runs on the property. It's still gonna come, basically, you can see how it's angled down this way. So, like I said, there's no way to put a detention system in.
Down there, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just, it's
so
just ledge.
it's
There's nothing
it's
to
just
do there.
ledge.
Yeah.
So in order to, we would have built this at grade if we didn't have to detain water in accordance with the engineering regulations. I mean, the pool would be sitting in groundwater, but that's, that, you can get around that. The reason why we're raising this is in order to get the water quality and storage volume required by the engineering requirements of the town. This is still gonna have, some type of pooling that will, sit there for a little bit of time. I don't know how far.
I don't actually think water.
Excuse me. You
Oh,
can't-
I'm
you
not allowed
can't
to
ask-
answer?
You ask us.
Sorry.
We ask him.
So if it's not ponding there, that's great, but if you're looking at the grades,
That's the
again,
lowest
that being the
elevation.
lowest spot right here, there's 100 here, and then this is, this is at 100, and again, like I said, this is at 100 grade. This makes sense that there's kind of water sitting in here, because again, that's another low spot where you have a 90 and then 100 here, so they're actually sheeting water off of that property.
Down
onto
that way.
this, yeah. So, like I said, if it's, I talked to the client, I mean, they don't want to, but if we had to move that in a foot and put in, a drain at the toe of that wall, and then basically kind of run it down here, that's fine.
It's doable.
It's doable.
And-
But again, the town doesn't like surface water to be directed
Directed
into.
down, yeah. And I know it's not part of this application, since this is just the pool and the patio and the retention system there, but do you know where the sumps are draining into? Are they going into retention system, or are they just flowing out into sheet around the house?
I'm actually not sure where the detention systems are
Where the home
going,
are.
or the basement system is going. I think there is an existing, it's an existing system going over here. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, no, just curious. I know it's not part of this.
I know there's a lot of water on the property, where there's not rock. It's
Yeah.
basically, like I said, it's 36 inches to water, and there's 24 inches to modeling, so,
There's not a lot of room to work with.
no. And there's, I don't know what, the soils, again, are not hydric, but there's a big water
Yeah.
shed area over here,
Yeah,
wetland
the other side
area,
of Holly Lane.
that, so I'm not sure what is going on.
Okay. Do you have
Am I
any
allowed to ask?
additional questions? Yeah.
I did have one question. Oh, shoot, I forgot. If the drain, or whatever the proposal was for this additional drain, it still seems like it would just push water down the
So the wall.
property line. I don't know where my playground is, but maybe this is where it is, because that's where we get the flooding that we might have, like the water or wetlands. That might be where our playground is. So my question is, that'll just make that area more wet, is what I'm guessing. It's not going to, I'm just worried that this is just pushing it from their yard to ours, and there is significant water on their property. And thankfully, we don't have that, but that is a concern of ours at this time. I don't actually see how it moves into their land. I only see how it moves onto ours.
Have you evaluated any other place to put these Coltex? There's
Yeah.
zero other place.
I mean, to get it, again, we've done test pits in the front. I mean, there's modeling here, so
You would have to raise the
the
grade.
last thing we
everywhere.
do
Yeah,
is build walls on
walls.
anything. It's an increased cost to the client, it's increased regulatory burden. Luckily, we were able to do it without having to above 3.5 feet, which requires a structural engineer. So, yeah, there was just, again, it's.
And we have this reviewed by an outside engineer for the town. That's this Ty and Bond,
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
that's right.
Canis.
Okay,
So
saw those.
he's an independent
Okay.
reviewer that the town hires to make sure that the drainage plan does what it says it will do, and that the water runoff will go where the applicant says that it will go.
Uh-huh.
So he had a number of comments back and forth,
Okay.
and all of those comments were addressed. So
Okay.
the general outcome of that is that it certainly will not get any worse than what it currently is now. So there's some.
And may I ask, is that like a guarantee, or is that just like an assumption?
Well, it's modeling. There's no way to know, because there's different, our regulations conform to different sizes of storms. So
Uh-huh,
in
yeah.
something like a 50-year storm event, something that has a 2% chance of happening every year,
Right.
that there will be water everywhere, right? There's water all
Yes.
over the roads in town. There's just no amount of
And
storage.
miraculously, with those storms that we've had in the last 4 years, we have not had any. So that's,
Yeah, so this is required. How about this? Can you just speak to
Yeah.
the modeling and
So,
what size storms you did in the drain? I know it's in the drainage report, but
Yep.
it's more, for a layperson, it's a
So
little bit
Yeah.
harder to
We
understand.
designed,
Yeah,
I
okay.
can talk to
Just
that,
to-
so.
yeah, quick, this
So
25-year.
if we get, again, if we, that was correct, if we get 20 inches of rain, nothing in town is designed to handle 20 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, or, what we've been seeing is 9 inches of rain in a 6-hour period. So if that's the case, everything is inundated, and you know, this is not going to be the issue that's causing water to go on the property. But for, again, for the 50-year storm, which is what the town requires, which is, I think, 6 inches of rain over a 24-hour period, you wouldn't see any increase of runoff onto on this property or your property, because it's being handled through the infiltration system. Back in the day, they used to just take the leader drains and dump them right on the ground, or, you know, we would just build this thing on grade and it would turn into a bathtub. So we're
Can I
no
ask-
longer allowed to do that. You know, again, if you were to see, you know, the reason why we put these walls in, because when we were doing our conceptual design, one of the things we had was we were actually tightening this up and actually doing it without walls and sloping it down and trying to make the Coltech system work that way. We did have concerns based regarding blowout, because if you have a slope and then the Coltech system, you know, can have a tendency to erode on that slope, and it was just very steep. It's not something that would be easily mowed or even walked down the way we looked at it. So the client, you know, we kind of, I don't want to say sold them on this idea. We said, you know, this is probably the most prudent thing to do, is put the wall in, even though, you know, again, we don't like to put walls on property when grades work. That being said, we wouldn't have proposed this if we thought it was going to have some type of negative impact on the property. You know, as professional engineers, I'm not a professional engineer, but people in the office are. We wouldn't propose something that would have a negative impact on the property. I'm more than willing to go out with the neighbors and the client and kind of walk the site and explain the reason behind the plan. You know, we are professionals, licensed engineers and professional wetland scientists, so we do a lot of work. I think this has been peer reviewed, and again, your staff has reviewed it too. You know, again, I'll do whatever I need to do to, you know,
Sure.
do the learning curve, which is, I understand, I own my own home. I would be concerned too if, you know, someone was coming in to dump a lot of water. That's just not the situation that's going to occur.
Oh, yeah, the one.
Can you just stand up?
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
I know, my voice is very quiet. The one concern, I guess, which I still feel is, in my opinion, not being addressed, is how the water gets from, like, I think this drainage system is designed to catch the water or help with all of that. I still don't understand, but probably because I don't know about this, but I don't think it's been explained how the water gets from the eastern side to the western side where the drain is. I think what is being explained is it's going from the front of the eastern side to the back of it, which is still our property.
So I think what's happening is in the front of it slopes down towards Holly Lane, so that's where it's going there.
And
What
is
goes
that
in-
gonna change? Like,
That's not gonna change.
That's consistent with how it is now?
Yep,
Okay.
and then what goes into the retention system are basically the leaders, the gutters, and the drains in and around the pool.
Okay,
So rain that falls naturally in between the proposed pool and the side will just run from higher elevation to lower elevation.
The obligation of an applicant is to, when they're putting in impervious surface, is to say, I'm gonna capture the water that's being created by my development
okay.
and make sure I can retain that water and not adversely impact the neighbors. But their
Okay.
role is to not change and fix what's inherent in the property contours.
Yeah.
Inherent. So they're not gonna fix wetlands, they're not gonna fix puddling.
Yeah.
They're gonna make sure they're not making it worse.
Yeah, if that is that's what we're worried about, is that it's gonna get worse. We are not worried about what we have now, because we don't have any major problems. It gets wet when it rains, like more wet in one spot than another, but we're not worried about that. We're more worried about a lot more water ending up on our property because of the 2.8
Yep.
feet that it'll be higher by 2.8 feet, so.
So,
That's all.
just to
To raise that.
clarify this a little bit better, I mean, this is essentially, this grade, this is 100.6, this is on their property, this is 105 on our property. Currently, I mean, really, it's
And that's
flat.
105.
Flat,
100.5.
100.5, so it's a tenth of an inch, I mean, it's flat,
It's
flat.
like this
flat.
table.
Yeah, it's so flat, but currently, the
And that's
water.
with that's proposed with the.
No,
Existing.
that's
That's
existing.
existing.
So basically, what it's doing is there will be a dam, a wall, but it will direct the water down this way to this lower point. I mean, their water, in some instances, because the system is so flat, it's kind of,
Could go either way.
It's going either way.
Yeah.
So as long as we're not increasing the water going onto their property, they're currently sheet flowing onto, to
And
the
if
other
you did a
property.
drain at the base of that wall, that could potentially capture some
It
of
would
the
have to come out
pooling.
here though,
It still comes out the same.
because there's no way, again, there's no way, and if we could, there's no way to pick up the water here
Yeah.
and get it over to that Colton
Yeah.
system, because that's,
Going
Yeah.
against
that's
the
up,
grade.
Yeah.
up,
Uphill.
upgrade.
Understood.
You'd have a pump, and, if you lose.
But I guess her concern is if you're raising the grade 3 feet, any water shedding that naturally would be happening in that area is not hitting a wall, and is not going anywhere.
It's,
And
right
it's
now, it's going on to
accumulating.
their property.
Okay.
So you could, you could kind of make the case that some of the water that they're experiencing in this area is actually coming off. I haven't inspected their property, I don't know if maybe there's some things that could be done over there. If you have leader drains that are dumping water, they don't have a Coltex
No, it's
system,
okay.
if there's leader drains.
Yep.
That could be, it's exacerbating the current situation.
I think the key thing to know is that, the independent peer reviewer also came to the same conclusion, that during a
Okay.
50-year storm event, there will be the conditions as they are now will be, they'll not be adversely impacted. So this proposed development will not increase water in that area up until a 50-year storm event.
Okay,
But at anything over that, I don't think that any system in town would function to retain water. It's just too much rain too quickly.
I think recently we've had, I don't know my stats on rain, but we've had a lot of rain, big, huge storms, not, I don't know, 6 inches, but close probably in 24 hours in the last year. And so we haven't had any problems, so I just want to put that on record and wanted to show up and explain our concerns, and sounds like everything's under control and we won't have any problems, so that's just why I came here, to make sure that other people who are experts are there, looking out for everybody, not just,
Well, that's why we have the independent
Yeah,
peer reviewer. We
right.
don't just take the applicant's word that they won't.
I guess
won't
that's, yeah.
change it.
And if you
Okay.
wanted to take a look at that, that is online.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the town website, if you wanted to take a closer look and
Okay.
take him, after you have an opportunity to read that, take him
Yes.
up on his opportunity to then
Yeah, I think my
have a
husband too, like
discussion
he's not
to
here.
say, read through that, get your basis on what the peer reviewer said,
Yeah.
and then take him up on the opportunity to,
Just-
meet you and explain. That
Yeah, I
that
think
was
that would
very
help.
generous.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
really appreciate that, and I know you are an expert, and so I totally appreciate your input, but I
Well,
just wanted to show up and.
no, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
for
you for
so
your-
much time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
Thank
I'll,
you.
I'll take this time to open up to the commission. If there are any other questions for the applicant, Mr. Riley?
No, thank you.
Mrs., okay. So we have no more questions. Do we want to?
I just have a quick
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Phil, how much fill is coming in?
I knew you were gonna ask me that.
I thought I saw.
It's actually, the only thing I did not print out was the actual application.
Thought I saw it somewhere around
It-
20 trucks.
It is in there.
It's in the engineering.
Yeah, it was in, how many,
It's actually in the X and fill permit application.
Okay,
I'm
that's fine,
sorry.
as long as we can find it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
I
don't,
saw it somewhere.
And with a pool, what envision, like, I know it's not part of this application, but the as far as fencing or any additional landscaping.
so
solid.
they actually are putting in that new cover. So they don't
okay.
need a fence, because I think it was in 2 years ago in
Trying to
October.
sweep through before they change it.
No, that, it's actually passed now, where you can have the cover, that's the
Yeah, I
automatic
know,
cover.
rumors are it's gonna unpass.
Oh, is that?
Yes. Rumors are that might unpass someday soon, not in the future.
But right now, they have a 6-foot fence, I think, around most of the
They
property.
do, it actually
Yeah.
borders this whole side, the
Okay.
only area it's kinda, they just went through major construction, so
Yep.
some of the fence was a
The
little.
eastern side is our fence, but I don't know if that probably won't
Actually-
be touched, right?
The fence on Norotan Avenue is gonna be, as Fred and I went to the site, moved in a foot or two to be put on the property. It's a little in the town right away.
I don't think it's there. Did they take it down?
They took
No.
it down since we were there. They were in the process of taking it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
I
a
think
white,
it-
it
I
was a
drove
white
by it
stucco.
today. I don't think it's there.
It might not be there anymore.
I don't think it's there.
But they're gonna put up a new fence there.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was even after, they must have taken it down. even
I drove
after-
by it today. I don't
It
think
was
it's-
not in good
Yeah,
condition.
okay.
No, it wasn't.
No. Yeah,
Okay, well,
thank
do
you.
we want to close the hearing? Does that sound good? Okay. So do I have motion to close this application? George, looks like you got it in first. Okay, Jamie makes a second. All those in favor? Okay, we will deliberate on this soon,
Maybe next Tuesday.
Yeah.
maybe perhaps next Tuesday.
Do you need me here for that?
The deliberations?
No, okay, some towns want you, but.
The public hearing is closed,
Yeah.
so there's no more. Okay, thank you. And then
Thank
maybe
you.
I would encourage you to give her your contact information. Maybe you can
Absolutely.
walk the property with them and kind of give them some explanation.
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. Very well
I'm
behaved.
very well behaved.
Very well
Yes.
behaved. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I do believe this concludes our public hearing. We are now going into the general meeting. Although, are we skipping over the first item in the general meeting? Or I guess I'll read it in. The mandatory referral, number 3-2024, Darien Board of Education, 16 Thorndale Circle. Request for a report regarding a proposed lease of parking spaces in 16 Thorndale Circle for student transportation vehicles. We saw this application in our packets. We have an approval drafted, which we'll deliberate on. But I do believe because this is a lease that the town has to engage in, that we also need to submit one of those mandatory referral reports, the usual ones that say they conform with the town's master plan. We do not have a draft of it, but is there anyone who thinks that we shouldn't submit this as a positive approval? No? Okay. So I will instruct
something for
staff
next
to
week.
draft something up for next week so we can get that out. And we confirm that there's no a priori necessity of the mandatory referral before we approve the application which was before us. So we can go ahead and approve or vote that down tonight without this impacting it. There's no A must come before B must come before A. So moving along, we will talk about the proposed amendments to the Darien zoning regulations, COZR number 1-2024, PL 24-3, put forth by the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. This is the proposal to amend sections 210, 403, and 407, the Darien zoning regulations, to permit the construction and habituation of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, on certain residentially zoned properties under specifically defined circumstances. Where permitted, one ADU may be allowed on the same lot as the principal single-family dwelling and may be attached or detached from the principal dwelling. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendment is on file and available in the town clerk's office and the planning and zoning office for inspection and online at DarienViewpointCloud.com as PL-24-3. Hearing was closed on March 12th of 2024. So I do believe in the packets we had the proposed ADU zoning regulations. They went through a number of different things. They talked about the owner occupancy portion of it, which we discussed at length. The overall scope and size of it versus the percentage coverage, as well as sort of the definition of what an ADU is, since that's kind of unclear or somewhat opaque from a housing standpoint. I trust everyone has read through this. Talks about the local comments we saw. We've had a number of town meetings regarding these, so I think this is a pretty well hashed out. And I think the key also about these provisions is the 5-year sunset, so that, you know, if we do find out something is working or not working, we're not roped into this. Some future commission can certainly readopt these, tweak them in some minor way or some major way going forward, but certainly I think this is a very good first step towards some sort of adoption, which puts us ahead of a lot of other towns in and around southern Connecticut.
Yep.
So I'll open it up to Amy. Do you have any comments or questions or
The only
changes,
thing that I'd like
notes?
to remind anybody who's watching is the thoughtful, I think, nature that we did to make sure there's no adverse effect on parking on streets and neighborhoods, to accommodate parking on site and within setbacks of main buildings. So I think we've done a lot to try to envision what might be problems and try to guardrail against them. And again, we'll have an opportunity to relook at that in 5 years and evaluate what we got right and what we need to change.
Yep. Okay, Mr. George Riley?
But the only comment I would make is, again, for the record, anybody watching, this has not changed, I don't believe, since the public hearing was held. So we got some comments, we considered what was mentioned there. This is the same proposal as was presented at the time of the public hearing. And I'm all for it. I think it makes good sense.
Excellent.
Me too. My only initial concern was allowing the accessory unit to be at a greater height than the primary dwelling unit, but I think this is well put together, so I'm supportive.
Yeah, and I also think this is well put together. I disagree with the need to have an owner occupancy regulation or a reporting regulation, since there is no enforcement mechanism by the town. So I think it adds unnecessary red tape to our zoning office for something that is not enforceable. And other towns have had issues with it as well. So I suspect we might revisit that potentially in the future. But as it's drafted now, I think that the good of this drastically outweighs some potential future roadblocks. So do I have a motion to adopt the regulations as written? Amy makes a motion. Jamie makes a second. All those in favor? 4-0. Got some ADUs. Excellent.
Effective, was it 90 days? I can't remember.
I think it takes effect June 30th,
June 30th.
and that gives us time to
Final.
print new regulations, file it with the town clerk, post it to the website, get some public relations out there, and from a staff implementation standpoint, whether it's a handout or instructions or checklist, whatever it is, change the software system, whatever we need to do, it gives us about 6 weeks to do it.
Good.
Okay, great. Okay, moving along to our second item, proposed amendment of the Darien zoning regulations, COZR 2-2024, special permit application number 84-B, PL-24-34, Darien Board of Education, Nielsen Company at 16 Thorndale Circle. This is a proposal to amend section 795 of the Darien zoning regulations to permit the parking of up to 10 Darien Board of Education transporters up to the size of type 2, which are 28 passenger school buses. Request to allow the parking of 5 type 2, 28 passenger school buses, and 2 wheelchair vans as part of the Board of Ed transportation use. This hearing was closed on April 23rd of 2024, and we have a draft resolution in our packets today as such. So we noted that this was a Board of Ed requirement.
I found this on the web.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That it's only for 10 additional vehicles. We did not include the ability to force them to lease additional parking spaces for the for the drivers of the vehicles to park, mostly because that area has ample parking, and as the applicant testified, Generally, they have a way to move the vans or buses out and then park their car in that spot anyway. So it does require a little bit of a dance, but it seems to work. And that could always be changed going forward. They could always lease more spots without our necessity. If anybody has any comments on it, I'll start to my left here. Any Scrivener's errors, issues with it? Go to my right, George,
I have nothing.
Jamie?
No, I mean, I understand how it could work without the extra spot in this particular lot, but if they end up in a different lot, that might not necessarily be the case.
Yeah.
That way. But-
But if they did end up in a different lot, they would have to come
Come back
before.
for
Right,
another
exactly.
special
Yeah, yeah,
permit.
I just-
And we would review the total
exactly,
parking, the
yeah.
whole thing, get
All
approval
over
again. Yeah, we do it again.
Okay.
Okay, great. I did not see any nitpicky grammar, punctuation, or spelling errors. So I'll entertain a motion to approve as drafted. Anybody to my right?
Sure.
Jamie makes a
Okay,
motion.
good.
Amy
I'll
makes a second.
yeah.
All those in favor?
Yep.
4-0. It is passed. Okay, moving along, we will be doing the second of the Board of Ed. Amendment to Business Site Plan number 281, Special Permit PL 2433, Darien Board of Education. This is at 35 Leroy Avenue. Request to allow the parking of an additional 2 Chevrolet Suburbans or similar cars to be parked on-site as Board of Education transportation use. These vehicles would increase the number of Suburbans from 6 to 8. The hearing was closed on April 23rd, 2024. We have a draft resolution in our packets going over this. This one is pretty straightforward. The resolution does say in finding B, Chevy Suburbans or another vehicle of similar size, in case the town wants to go with a different brand of car. They don't have to come before us to get a new special permit, which is good. So hopefully that will alleviate us. That is it. Amy, any comments? Scrivener's errors, punctuation? No issues?
good. Yep.
George?
All good.
Jamie?
Okay.
Okay. I did not see anything either, so do I entertain a motion to approve the resolution?
Yep.
Amy makes a motion. Jamie makes a second. All those in favor? 4-0. Moving along. Alrighty. Let's see, back to this. Okay, landfilling and regrading application number 567, PL-24-40, Michael and Christiana Martineau of 23 Old Stone Road. This is a proposal to construct additions to the west side of the existing single-family residence, extend the driveway, construct new pool and patio, stone retaining walls, and perform related site development activities, including the installation of stormwater management and regrading of the property. The hearing was also closed on April 23rd of 2024. We have a draft approval in our packets. This one was one of Harry's applications we saw that night, one of the 2 of them. It was a pretty straightforward application. There's no blasting or rock permitting.
Can you remind me Joe verbally agreed to Joe Canis's comments 1 through 3? I have a note that they had asked, they agreed to accommodate Joe Canis's comments 1 through 3, and I can't remember what those were. I
One
just
was
wanna
the
make-
double row of silt fence,
Okay,
which you could see in condition A.
okay.
Let me see what the other 2 were.
So to make sure those got into the resolution.
Uh, 23 Old Stone, these are Joe Canis's comments,
1
April
through 3. Yep.
April 17th. Comment 1, double row of silt fence facing the wetlands. They are staying out of the 50-foot regulated area, but
Yep.
one double row of silt fence. Joe said, review the 4-inch PVC roof leader and the 4-inch PVC footing drain crossing. Will the 2 pipes conflict?
They said no during the hearing.
Yep,
And number 3, in the HydroCAD computations, infiltration is to be taken over the horizontal area instead of the surface area.
Okay,
which I
all
believe
right.
they did as well.
They did as well. Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a condition, like, it was more of just a clarification.
And
Got
we-
it.
But
All
we
right.
have the double silt fence in condition A at that note at the end of it.
Got it. All right, I'm good.
Okay, Amy's good. George, any issues,
No issues.
comments, Scrivener's errors?
No, sir.
Jamie?
No.
Okay, do I have none from me? Do I have a motion to approve as drafted? George makes a motion. Amy makes a second. All those in favor? 4-0. Everybody's getting some batting today.
I feel very good about that, don't you?
Okay, flood damage prevention application number 444 PL-24-18 Lake Drive Properties LLC, 30 Lake Drive. This is a proposal to lift the existing single-family residence at least 1 foot above the AE base flood elevation, construct a second-floor addition and masonry entry stairway stoops at the north and south sides of the residence, relocate and elevate the HVAC equipment to the north side of the residence, and to perform related site development activities within a regulated area. We also closed this on April 23rd of 2024. In our packets, there is a draft approval. This one was the small house that's being lifted up. There was no generator on the house, but the HVAC units are being lifted up. They got the ZBA variance. We noted that in .5. They had that before we got here. Otherwise, it was a pretty straightforward, basically lift on lake. So I'll open it up to Amy. Any comments, questions, Scrivener's errors here?
I'm good. There's no incremental in the footprint. They were
Doesn't
just filling the
change.
crawl space.
That's it, yep.
Yep, I'm good with this.
Okay, George?
I'm fine. I'm struck by all that they can do in this little space.
Very little space, very constrained property for sure. And they have the variance too for,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which they got before us, so we don't have to worry about that.
All good?
Jamie, all good? Perfect.
Yep.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve as drafted. Jamie makes a motion, Amy makes a second, all those in
You're trying
favor?
to be fair. You're trying to get.
4-0. Trying to get, everybody's gotta get their reps in. There's only 4 of us here, it's a limited options. Okay, moving along, landfilling and regrading application 564 PL-24-21 9 Shady Acres LLC, 9 Shady Acres Road. This is a proposal to raise the existing residence and construct a new 6,000 square foot single-family dwelling, construction of new pools, patio, driveway and parking court, retaining walls, and perform related site development activities, including regrading of the property and the construction of a new septic system and installation of stormwater management. This hearing was also closed on April 23rd of 2024. In our packets, we have a draft resolution of approval for 9 Shady Acres. This one was, we saw this over a number of hearings. This one had a very close to the maximum height of the buildable house, which was modified down a little bit. And this was also the one with the existing crawl space that we decided to make the basement,
Higher.
raise the basement up to
Yeah.
the level of the crawl space versus dig the crawl space out, even though it was alleged that it was dry. Other than that, it was an uneventful application. I'll open it up to Amy. Any comments, questions, Scrivener's errors, notes, issues?
I'm glad that the applicant did in fact take our commentary.
I didn't get that.
and-
Could you try again?
Sorry. I thought I said that setting off. The commentary about changing the basement level.
Yeah.
So that was something that I felt strongly about.
Was a good
You know,
move.
Yeah, it's wet over there, and I understand what the neighbors' concerns were. So I'm glad that they took that into consideration and amended their design
Yeah.
downward.
And I think they also, I also thought that the height of the house was so absolutely within 2 or 3 inches of the maximum height that some small construction mess up could really force them to have to rip apart a whole bunch of it. So by lowering the pitch of the roof, I think by
Yeah,
incorporating our
gave them a little
comments
more
there,
wiggle
gave
room.
them a little bit of a buffer too. So I
Yeah.
think, I like that they did that as well. So that was good to see that they incorporated our feedback. George, comments, questions? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I suspect the neighbor won't be completely satisfied, but again, we have had the applicant's engineer and our own peer review, all indicating that there'll be no change to the drainage pattern, so that's why I can say yes to this.
Jamie, anything?
Good.
Good to go. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, what?
You want to pick on
Huh? Oh, what? The
it?
square?
Just something you might
Oh,
normally.
the square? I didn't even see that.
Oh, well, okay.
Over
And
public.
I'm not going to mention it.
Oh, yeah, there is some sort of ASCII character over public comment. A little like square. I
I
don't know what that
move
is.
approval.
But anyway.
We're 5 for 5 here.
There you go. Anyway, I'll entertain a motion to approve as drafted. George?
Yep.
George makes a motion.
Yep.
Amy makes a second. All those in favor?
That's right.
4-0. Got a house. And we are flying through these
Yeah.
large number of proposals.
Excellent staff work, really.
Indeed.
Well done.
The last one, flood damage prevention application 445, landfilling and regrading application 570, PL-24-44, Town of Darien, Department of Public Works, Hanson Road Bridge. This is the proposal to replace the existing Hanson Road Bridge and culvert and to perform related site development activities within the regulated areas, including regrading to accommodate the improvements. We have in our packets, in a separate email, Fred sent over the Hanson Road Bridge draft resolution. If you recall, this one, that bridge is in quite disarray, needs to be fixed and repaired. They're gonna put in the new culverts, they're gonna run the new line with the water company, which is gonna be great, so it's gonna kind of hide it. Attorney Gleason spoke, this is at point 6. The director, Darren Ostafine, agreed to all of his sort of potential conditions of approval, and those, I believe, show up as note F, which were a number of how they'll work on that adjacent property, the hours, where they'll work, some silt fencing, and then potentially fix any of their sprinklers
Their
that might get
plantings.
broken, and some plantings,
yeah.
yeah. And also some additional signage so that people aren't doing U-turns in their driveways, because this will disrupt certainly the flow of traffic for a number of months in town as people have to kind of go around that. There is some concern people will use the high school as the sort of the cut-through shortcut here once this is happening. There's nothing we can really do about that except tell people not to, which I'm sure will go out in all the notices that we are going to do as part of the application. So I'll open it up to Amy.
Fine.
Good? George?
I just want to be sure that we don't need a condition of satisfactory easements being completed. I guess, I don't know whether that would be covered under the engineering plans or something else. I don't see any reference to that, and there is room required, I don't know, for those easements.
Correct, there's both permanent easements and temporary easements. Temporary would be during the construction, they need to do work on one of the 3 adjacent properties, either Weburn, I think it's Ms. Osgood at 100 Hanson, and the neighbors who showed up represented by Wilder at, I think they're at 88 Hanson. So there'll be, I can't remember which properties have permanent, temporary, some properties have both, of course. They can't really start the project till they get those easements.
Yeah. Okay.
So
we
they'll
don't-
be
we don't
filed in
need
the
to-
land records.
We don't need to make a condition on that, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right, they won't have the room to do it.
right, they couldn't go on someone's property and do work.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Okay. Jamie? Good? Perfect. I'll entertain a motion then to approve this application as drafted. Jamie makes a motion. George makes.
Oh, I saw
Oh,
that.
Amy jumped in for the second. All those in favor?
Yep.
All right. Got a new bridge coming.
Yep.
Okay, let me go back. Okay, so that ends that. Deliberations only regarding coastal site plan review 260-B as in boy, flood damage prevention application 297A, landfilling and regrading application 568, PL 2439 224 LNP LLC at 224 Long Neck Point Road. The proposal to construct a new subterranean addition to the west side of the existing single-family residence, construction of a new pool, patio, guest house, construction of a new garage, expansion of the existing garage with a new connection between the two garages, expansion and reconfiguration of the existing driveway with a new parking court, construction of retaining walls and hardscape areas, and to perform related site development activities within the regulated areas, including installation of stormwater management, regrading of the property to accommodate the improvements. Public hearing was closed on April 23rd, 2024. This application, if you recall, was Mr. Gleason's application of a house that's already been renovated, but with substantial additions of a lower level, a very large pool house, addition saving the one tree that they're building the driveways around. I think the biggest concern from the hearing was the number of trucks that will have to be traversing up and down Long Neck Point Road, possibly in conjunction with other construction going on. I believe they had a large number of trucks that were going through there.
160.
160, which we thought would be basically 2 an hour for 2 weeks, all day, every day. So we'll need to think about how that is managed.
Yeah.
More so than I think anything else. The plans were, it's a pretty big house, big improvement, pretty big lot, kind of similar to what the neighbors did next to it.
And I was just thinking about that, how much, I wonder, was there a cut and fill application on the one immediately next to it? I'm just curious how it stacks up compares to that one.
At 218?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or-
the one that's is under construction right now. It's been
I'll have
under
to take a
construction
look.
for quite some time. I'm curious to see how it compares.
Yeah, because here they're digging out, as you saw, to get that
Yep.
basement view. So a lot of it is, instead of bringing in fill, a lot of
Where
it.
the other one, I
although
think the topography already
Yeah,
lent
it's
itself
more of
to
a-
it. Where
correct.
this one, they've got to really
Dig it in.
take it out.
And I think they're hopeful, and I think this is something we kind of referenced during the hearing, is the benefits of doing it kind of when people are away on vacation as much as possible. There's more people walking up and down the street versus
Yeah.
in the winter, everyone's at home.
Yep,
So there's really no perfect time to do it.
yep, yep.
If
Yeah.
they're gonna do more than, the advantage they have, which was discussed at the hearing, a lot of room on site to store material.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, they do have a lot of room on site. I think with the trucks at least, the hours have to be regulated.
Yep.
Certainly because on those roads in the mornings, there's a lot of walkers, a lot of people walking their dogs, there's a lot of runners, there's a lot of cyclists. Those people are up early. You know, you're driving a big dump truck at 7 a.m. in the morning, you gotta kind of be aware of that. So we don't want trucks starting to plow down that road at 6:30 to start queuing up to take fill out at 7 a.m. So we might need to limit that to a little bit later of a start. I think might be one way to do it, because you go there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's not so busy. You go there at 8 a.m., the roads are full of people walking.
Right.
And certainly, I don't think they could do, I would like to see no dump trucks on the weekends. The weekends, those roads have 10 times as many people walking
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
certainly, I don't have any issues with work being done on site during the weekend, but the dump trucks, you know, they can't be going up and down that road on a Saturday morning. It's just far too many people, too many clubs, too many runners, too many cyclists, too many dog walkers.
Yeah, and I'm seeing people like on that road, just, you know, people on the weekends, just, they tend to walk right straight in the middle of the road.
Yeah, there's no
And it's just
sidewalks on the
way- there's
roads,
too
yeah.
much pedestrian traffic
Yeah.
in that whole vicinity, and that's not going away with Great Island, so we really have to be mindful about that for the weekend stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
George, any comments,
we were
thoughts,
not-
ideas?
Okay, we were, as to the trucks, we were gonna limit it by calendar too, or, I don't really favor that, but
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
there's
we
an
talked
argument
about
too,
that.
that just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done as
Yeah.
fast as you can.
Yeah, and I don't think I favor that. I'd rather them pace themselves.
Or,
Yeah.
or pacing, yeah.
Can
Right.
we ask them to submit a plan, then move
Yep,
approval?
yeah.
I think Jamie's right, is we can make that a condition, is a
Yeah.
plan with these parameters, with these limits, which you're discussing now.
I don't think we need a site monitor for that plan. I think just having a plan submitted by Gleason will be enough.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
And those a little bit, and I don't think we need to, those roads are pretty robust, so I don't think it's something like a Delafield Island where we're concerned about kind of a private road that's not really meant for trucks. Those roads are pretty heavily traversed with all the construction that's going on them over the last couple of years. I don't think the roads themselves will get damaged. There was some comment about Rings End Bridge potentially being damaged, but I don't think that's a pretty beefy bridge. We don't really need to worry about that.
Is there some new work gonna happen on Rings End Bridge?
I'm not aware of anything in the
No?
works.
Okay,
Are
good.
they planning on fixing any of the potholes at the top end of where it intersects with
Great
Locust
Island.
Hill?
Locust, oh, near Locust Hill?
Yeah.
Rings End and Locust Hill, you mean,
No.
Old Kings Highway.
Old Kings Highway and Long Neck.
oh, Kings,
No.
I mean, Good Wives.
Or Good Wives River.
Good
Yeah, it
Wives.
turns into Good Wives at the Y.
yeah,
It gets pretty-
I'll take a look, I assume that if they see potholes, they fix them.
If they're going up that way, that'll get really beat up because it's already beat up. Where it gets
Yeah.
twindy and turny up there,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really beat up there right now. And if they're
Yes.
going up that way, the trucks will really beat that road up. Versus if they, my assumption is they'll go up that way over instead of going out Rings End Road, just because you've got that St. Luke's and you've got the intersection, and then from there, there's no real easy access to 95 versus going out the other way onto Old Kings Highway or Locust Hill. There's a quicker way to get to the post road to get out, so they'll probably go on that. That would be my assumption, even though it's turnier, windier, but up there, the road is pretty beat up, so we might want to just have the town take a look at that road before this project, or Great Island.
Okay.
Do we know when Great Island is starting? Broadway is starting?
The driveway expansion,
How
Yes.
dare you ask?
Going out to rebid.
they have to rebid, there were no bids,
There were no bids.
0.
Nobody wants a job.
They
I
were
think
all
it was a
booked up.
combination of factors, from what I read in the paper.
Okay.
It was a very short turnaround,
Yep.
and most contractors already have work
Worked
planned
out.
out well into the
Yep.
year, and
Yep.
Yeah.
they couldn't take on another job, so.
And there's some stuff about the walls and the ornateness of it and blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. Sorry, so anyway, Jamie, anything else you want to add to this?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. I don't believe, and then, I don't know if we need to explicitly note it, but I don't believe that, I recall us asking Attorney Gleason if the pool house would be classified as an ADU, and he said no.
He specifically said
No,
that.
it won't
He's
be.
on record that there would be no cooking.
Inside of it.
I
It has
have
to be a
2,900.
portion of that, and it's too big. I
Right,
think,
it's,
to be a big deal.
George is right.
Oh, yeah, it's too
Even,
big.
even the first floor or second floor are too big.
Right.
Yeah, it was almost 3,000 square feet, if memory serves me correct.
That's
It's
correct.
huge. It's a huge, like a 4-story pool house. It's crazy. Okay.
In my house, I know that.
That's right. All right, well then, I'll ask staff to put together something for positive
Yep,
approval with something to do with the dumps and the
got it,
timing, and we'll tackle it at a future date.
got it, thank you.
Okay. Moving along, we've got, it's 8:30, we're playing time. Landfilling and regrading application number 563, PL-24-14, Matthew and Christy Walsh at 29 Highview Road. This is the proposal to regrade the rear yard to create a more level lawn area and to perform related site development activities within a regulated area, including the removal of the tennis court, installation of stormwater management, and abandonment of the existing septic system. This hearing was closed on April 9th of 2024. So if we remember, this property was the one that was pretty straightforward,
Except for the neighbors
except
down
for
below.
the
Yeah.
one neighbor down below.
There were two.
Was
On
it
Birch.
2?
They were on
Birch.
Birch Road.
There was
Yeah.
the one on Birch wasn't directly adjacent to it. I thought. She was kind of
Yeah,
claiming that it flowed over two properties and then got to hers, so,
Yeah, you may recall at the subsequent hearing, it came in, Alexandra Mock brought in a planting plan,
yep.
which, and then the original plan didn't have drainage, so the, Wayne Devanzo presented a drainage plan, which, very late in the game, there were some comments by Joe Canis, and the commission decided to close the hearing,
Can't send them in after.
and incorporating some of Joe's comments as conditions of approval. And so that was where we left it, was the planting plan was addressing some of the neighbors' concerns about stabilizing the slope, replanting that used to be a lot of trees on the property.
Yep.
So this will help stabilize the slope, absorb a little bit of water, the drainage system will absorb water. They did include plans for a future pool. I think the septic system has to be moved or something like that. So
Abandoned, I think.
abandoned or moved, I couldn't recall.
And Joe's comments that came in, that we left the hearing open, not open, but we allowed him to submit them after we closed it, were minor in nature. You know, like how do we, you know, put a ring around a tree to make sure it gets
Yeah.
retained? You know, there wasn't anything, you know, that drastically needed to change throughout these. Since we should note that the pool is not part of this application. It's
Right.
only the conceptual version of the pool, so I think, I don't know if we need to explicitly state this is not an approval of the pool, right? They'll have to come back. If-
Might, it
maybe-
depends how,
maybe,
I think what they're
potentially.
doing is regrading.
Enough
such-
so they don't have to come back,
So they
yeah.
might not need to.
But
but
yeah,
we'll see.
but we should say, because there was a lot of discussion around the pool, but it's not part of this application, it's just kind of like, this is where we're gonna put a pool eventually.
In my opinion, that from the neighbors, it was, I think, three different neighbors on Birch, 50, 52, and 46. What they're experiencing now is from work that's already been done. So to me, approving this and getting the additional drainage will be helping them.
Yeah.
And adding the additional landscaping back will be helping them to something that's already been completed. And so if we don't approve this, I actually think it would be, by approving this, we're actually helping the neighbors.
Yeah, I agree. A number of trees were taken down. Obviously, it's within your right to take trees down on your property. But certainly, I think they took a lot of care on that second planting plan to really address a lot of the neighbors' concerns, particularly along that area where it borders and it kind of slopes downhill, so.
And if I recall, at the end of that hearing, the landscape architect offered to potentially meet with one of the neighbors. Have we heard any, well, the hearing was closed, so I guess we wouldn't be receiving
I think
feedback.
they did, is my recollection.
Yeah, Alexandra Mock did meet out on site with the neighbors and I believe submitted a subsequent report that has been put into the file relative
Okay.
to some of her findings relative to the runoff from the property. And I believe she indicated that not only was the planting plan going to improve the situation as you have acknowledged or noted, but that some of the noted runoff from the neighbors was, from what I recall, the situation not necessarily coming from 29 Highview.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
George, any comments?
We're good.
Jamie, no? Okay, I'll look to staff to draft it up.
Yep.
Excellent, and we will deliberate on that at some future date. Do we want to, 8:30, do we want to deliberate on either 70 Nerone Ave?
Nope, that's still
Which
open.
we're
It would be
keeping that
open.
open,
Only
yeah.
50
So
Holly.
we can only do 50.
Yep.
Do we want to do that, or do we want to punt that? I think,
I'm ready.
huh?
I'm ready.
Is anybody have any issues with it? Okay. So we saw that tonight. There was obviously some concern from the neighbor. She was here, and I think, certainly they're probably going to, link up to further go over it, but I generally think most of her comments were addressed by the applicant. Certainly did his best to kind of explain it to her. I think where that pooling is probably the lowest point on the property. So there's just, water goes from high to low. And it's just ledge down at the bottom there. There's just not a whole lot you can do with that. So that's certainly as, condition of approval, we've got to have all of the, was there a maintenance plan submitted in the drainage, in the
I
back
think
of the
there
drainage
was.
report? I remember.
I think Joe
looking
had
over
mentioned
it.
something like that. If there was, it would certainly be a condition of approval.
Yeah,
And he's
it's usually in the appendix, but I'm looking for it. I was
I'm
trying
sure
to.
Joe's good about, that's one of the things he always
There
looks
it
for.
is.
There you
Oh,
go.
there it is, okay,
Very
so they do
good.
have the stormwater maintenance plan, we'll just have that filed in, done.
Where are we landing on this idea of the wall staying where it is, or it gets moved back a foot and there's a drain that's put in?
Well, I don't think that that's necessary, because ultimately, the French drain doesn't do anything but move the water underneath the wall to the exact same spot that it's going towards, right? So they were talking about moving the wall
Yeah.
over, putting the drain in there,
Yep.
and then trenching it almost all the way down to the
Yeah.
end of the thing. So the water just goes down into the French drain and then just drains back out right to that
But
low spot.
will it just go here and then start pulling back before it makes its way down versus expediting it getting
Down, that's the other issue with French drains is once they fill up, then they pool.
That's the question I have, is will it help not eliminate pooling against the wall onto her property if it captures it and then at least tries to traverse it and start it down beyond that section?
No.
I don't know, that's my question, because the reality is, it's not like it's a magic wand and suddenly there's a property line and water behaves differently when it crosses the property line. It doesn't do that. So now that this wall is gonna be there, will it help just get it away faster to the problem area that already exists? Right, which is where it would end up anyway.
Right. And my only thought too was that usually you don't construct a French drain right on a wall or near a wall, only because at the footing of it, because the French drain is just basically a hole with rocks in it, right?
Yeah.
And with a felt
Yeah.
thing on top, and
Yeah.
it collects water, and then it slowly disperses out. If you have a footing for a wall right next to it, it's just going to drain right underneath the footing and then slowly erode the wall out over time,
Yeah.
which is probably why they're against doing it. It
Yeah.
might be a short-term solution.
Yep.
But French drains also have maintenance. You got to dig them out every odd years when they get full of sediment and stuff, because those rocks are just kind of,
Yeah.
out there. So I would say, Joe did review this. I don't have any reason to doubt his work, so I don't think that's necessary
Okay.
to make him do it, but certainly I welcome anyone else's opinion. I'll go to George.
I'm just, the question is prompted in my mind now, and I should have asked it earlier, but could they simply continue the wall down farther into that area where there's ponding, just to make sure it doesn't then go over into the neighbor's land?
I think that would give her more concern.
Yeah.
I think that would give her more concern.
Why? I mean, if you have the wall all the way down to the end of the property line, that might cause some concern to others down here, maybe? I don't know. Well, I didn't ask, and so that's really not what's gonna happen. And I trust the engineers, it's not gonna be worse. That's
Yeah,
basically
I
it.
agree, yeah.
I think one of the reasons why they can't do a wall all the way down
It's part of the ledge.
is the ledge and the grading at the bottom of it, because it gets to be, because you're at, I guess, yeah, it's pretty flat actually.
The wall basically goes to zero
Yeah,
Yeah.
as you go down the
as you
hill.
go down the
Yeah.
hill, right?
Yeah,
So it wouldn't, and then that potentially would impact the drainage down onto 3 22 Nerone Ave. So they'd probably have to redo the whole drainage analysis if they extended that wall all the way down there.
No,
Yeah.
nope, not gonna cross that.
Yeah. Jamie, anything about that?
No, not about the engineering. I did find the fill, it's 675 cubic yards is what they're bringing in.
There it is, 675.
Where is it?
Um,
And is it what, 20?
It's in the narrative.
A truck?
Yeah, so it'd be about 30,
30
35.
trucks, yeah.
Probably. And I think what was interesting is it's a much bigger project in terms of time. I thought, oh, it's a week or two. No, it was like a couple months to get that yard. Dig the pool, because you're building a pool, so you gotta dig down, build the pool, and then fill around the pool.
We didn't ask the applicant, but because there's so much ledge all over this property, he's not blasting this pool out, he's gonna have to be hammering it out.
Well,
Yeah.
again, that part wasn't in the application, so.
Yeah, it didn't come up.
So they
You know,
can't
we're
hammer
not-
it out either.
We don't.
Yeah, I guess if the
This-
commission has any strong feelings, we can certainly put in if blasting, they need to get approval from fire marshal. I don't think the area of the pool has ledge, but
If you
I
got
didn't
ledge,
look
it
closely.
doesn't magically go away 5 feet.
Yeah.
I got ledge all over my property, it's there everywhere.
Okay, we'll include that, good catch, yeah.
That's the downside to it, because they've got, I mean, there's rock outcropping, so you're seeing visible rock sticking up from the
Right.
grass, right? So it's not like there's ledge, 2 feet down, you're looking at rocks down here at the base of this property, there's 4 or 5 visible rocks that you can see, so.
At the same time, they're putting the pool in fill.
Yeah,
In
part of
three-
it's elevated.
In 3 feet of, I guess.
Right.
So they're only
and
going down.
It'll go
They're not
down a
going
little
down
bit
3 feet
more.
far.
Yeah,
That's the whole point of this
It
whole
might
project,
not.
I gather.
Yeah.
it might not go down far enough to require.
Do we ever have to
Blasting.
worry about long-term erosion of fill? I know we had that one house, was that Delafield, where they were putting it up on like 10 feet of fill, and had some concern about over time the house settling and the fill eroding. Just, if your fill's not the most stable of structures, you put a grass yard on it, fine, but a pool, you could have shifting and stuff.
Well,
Is that really just the building permit?
Yeah, the
It's
building,
in the building code.
the building inspector will come by and take a look at that pool.
Yeah, make sure it's stuck in there.
Did you see the footage of the house in Florida that in one storm he left and he came back in the afternoon and his yard was gone? And the pool, the way
Yeah.
it was constructed, was totally exposed. So it was like
Still there, you saw the post on it, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what
Talk about
Token,
eroding.
that's what Tokenique did, right? They put in all those pylons underneath the
Yeah.
Oh,
pool.
Tokenique.
Club, yeah,
Mhm.
right, when we saw that
Yeah.
application 2 years ago, something like
Yep,
that.
they're almost ready to open.
Open
We
it
spoke
up,
to them a couple
yeah.
weeks ago, and they obviously need to be open for Memorial Day, so
Yeah.
Trying.
they want to be open at least a week or two before that, get that pool up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sounds like we've got a decent draft approval here, so you
Okay.
guys can put that in and add some of the points we've discussed. And I think that pretty much does it for anything else. There's no chairman's report. I don't have anything to add to it. Director's report, Jeremy?
You know, in your packets, whether it was last week or the week before, I think we sent over the quarterly report,
Mhm.
which summarizes
Yeah.
all the activity. We do meet next week. We have 3 public hearings. We'll have 1 or 2 draft resolutions, including the referral. It appears, if things start shifting around, that likely we're definitely off the 21st, possibly off the 28th as well, which is the day after Memorial Day. So you might get 2 weeks off in a row. Then start with June 4th, June 11th, those meetings are starting to fill up. A couple applications have been submitted that they're not quite ready, so they'll get pushed to late June, so we're already booking last week in June.
Nice. Is there any update on the legislative stuff that's going through the General Assembly now, I think? Or, right, are they done with the
Yeah.
House and into the Senate?
Yeah, one of the bills we're tracking is the Live, Work, Ride bill that was put forth by Desegregate Connecticut. That actually went to a House vote last Friday and was passed by the House. And its next stop is the Senate. From what we understand, it could get a vote of the Senate today. It may be tomorrow or later this week, but
I thought I got approved right before I got here, right before I got in the car.
okay.
Really? Today?
Well,
I think it was approved. I might be
Also, the
incorrect.
Okay.
commercial, the residential was approved. Right?
What's that?
Oh, where,
I
Yeah.
can't think of the number off the top
I
of my
think
head.
there was one where you can, if you have a nursing home, it can automatically convert. And they were talking about other things. It's,
I don't know. I might be
So it was without a
misspeaking.
public hearing was interesting.
right.
I might be misspeaking, so I
you
will
may
stop
very well
speaking.
be right.
I will.
From what we understood, it could have ended up in the Senate today. I haven't heard any news one way or the other on it yet, but we may.
I think one of the key elements of this is the opt-in.
Yes.
Is again a legislative body, not a planning and zoning decision. That's a legislative.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, so.
Whatever the town's legislative body is. Yeah.
So that will be,
That-
if
that-
that passes with that wording, then it really becomes everybody getting up to speed on
Yep.
what the requirements are, the pros and cons of opting in, and then if it is the legislative body, that's a decision by the 100-member RTM.
And would we have to affirmatively opt in, or would we have to,
To be
you
determined.
know what I mean? Like, we've
Yeah.
opted out, like, we opted
Yeah.
out of ADUs to draft our own ADU, but
Yeah.
an opt-in means you're out by default versus in by default
Yeah,
unless you
not
opt.
yet.
You know what I
No,
mean? So,
no.
it's interesting.
We'll have to
So a
clarify
lot of
that.
Yeah, a lot of
conversations like
unknowns.
Yep.
this. is-
What the heck does it mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other business? I don't think we have any other business we need to discuss.
I think so.
Okay, well, I open it up for anyone to make a motion to adjourn. I have no Mr. Netter here. De facto vote.
Right.
Amy makes a
All
motion.
right, yep,
There we
Jamie makes second. All those in favor?
yep.
If you
4-0
all-
to adjourn. It is
All right.
8:42.